Yeah. Speaking about bringing songs to life, it's time. I'm excited. Let's get him on here. He's waiting patiently. The one, the only, Mr. Tony Harnell. How are you doing?
Can you guys hear me? I'm doing well.
Yeah, I hear you. Absolutely. Loud and clear.
Oh, good. I'm driving, actually,
so. All right, so we got a lot to get into.
Okay.
And the first thing, like, some shockers have come out recently, and they're kind of taking me back. Some shockers.
Shockers. Are we talking about my new record? Is that a shocker, or?
No, because
I'm kidding.
Well, the one song was a shocker because it floored us how heavy it was. I wasn't expecting that. But so you left New York and you moved to Nashville.
Yeah.
Was that like something you were planning to do for a while? Like when you announced it, I was totally taken back.
Yeah. It was kind of semi-sudden, and I had it's been on my mind as a potential thing, but I hadn't made a real decision to do it until right before I did. So
wow.
Yeah, it was just sort of it was time. So yeah, here I am. Pretty awesome. I actually just saw Jeff LeBar about 5 minutes ago. I just left him and a couple other friends over at seeing this great local singer, Jasmine Kane. So anyway, yeah. So okay, so that's shocker number one. Yeah. But is it that shocking to move? I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Well, I was in New York for a long time. I mean, I was in New York for most of my adult life, so it's the biggest move I've made since I was 17 and moved from California to New York. So
yes, like for me, like I'm you know the area down here. I'm a Delco boy, Delaware County, like Jeff DeBar. I'm a Delaware County guy. Like so for me to move out of this area, like it's scary for me. Like to think about that, like you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when
no doubt. What's that?
When anybody does something like that, like with that's a huge thing. Like I don't know if I could do it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, my mom was an opera singer. She uprooted me so much when I was a kid that I kind of have like a weird two-sided head about it. Like, so on one side, it still freaks me out to move. I don't even like moving when I was in New York from one apartment to another would freak me out. So moving definitely is comes with a lot of, it's hard for me to do. Let's put it that way. But at the same time, I did it so much as a kid that doing crazy, look, I mean, in 1984, I was approached backstage at a gig I was doing and was approached to be in a Norwegian band. And I had to go to Norway in a couple of weeks if I wanted to do the gig and record a record. And a lot of 21-year-old kids would probably go, I'm not fucking going to Norway, But for me, it was like, yeah, why not? The stuff sounds good. Like, what have I got to lose? So I think that sense of, that bit of vagabond spirit that my mom kind of instilled in me has, in some ways, has probably served me well. But in saying that, at this point in my life, it is hard for me to make a big move. So it definitely didn't come without some pain, for sure. Yeah.
Do you
and
like?
I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you if it's a permanent move or not. I just wanted to check it out. So.
Okay.
So far, I've been doing so much work outside of Nashville. I haven't really planted my feet on the ground. So, I'm trying to do that now.
Nice. So, all right. So that was shocker number one. Shocker number two was you put up the other day about being a year sober, and I was kind of shocked with that because I didn't think or even know, or that there was possibly a problem going on.
Yeah. It everybody was like that, and it was something that most of the pretty much the only people that really were aware of it were people very close to me. Even some of my band members really weren't aware of how bad it was. So it's been. I'm like you remember you're probably too young, but in the 70s and 80s, it seemed like a lot of people would come out as suddenly somebody like Johnny Carson was suddenly in rehab, and you were like, what? How? What? Where did that come from? I'm sort of I'm like that guy that a lot of people didn't know, and it was affecting my life in a really, really bad way, and I made a lot of really dumb and bad decisions under the influence. So it became painfully, and I say painfully, even using the word painfully is a mild way to put it. It became painfully clear that I needed to make a huge change, and it was. So I did, and I finally, after a few false starts, I got real serious about it, and I'm glad I did. So, anyway, that's that. Yeah.
Seriously, that's impressive. And congrats to you. It's funny because I was thinking about that question, asking you this tonight, and I'm saying to myself, because I drink, I'm not where it's a big thing, but every night I'll have a glass of wine or a beer with dinner or whatever, and I was saying to myself the last couple of nights, I actually didn't have a drink the last 2 nights, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, Tony went a whole year, and I'm thinking to myself, God, that's 2 nights, that's impressive.
It's not that. I don't want to make light of it. But it's so much more about. A lot of people think that, that people that do have a problem and people that don't have a problem think that it's just about not drinking. It's about a lot more than that, and that's why the way I did it, I chose to do a program and to get involved in that, and that made all the difference in the world, because I'm still, I'm a work in progress, and I will be for a while. It's about, it's about changing, character defects in the way that the way you basically are about certain things, and it kind of rebooting yourself, and it takes time and it takes a lot of dedication, and getting the alcohol out of the way was one part of it, and and that is an important part of it for sure. And I just choose now to not drink every day, and I have to say already I've gotten just a lot of physical and mental benefits from not doing that anymore, and I still have a long way to go as a person who's growing still, even at my age, but at least I can see myself. Look, it makes you look at yourself honestly, and I think that's a huge thing for me, that I'm really, really happy that it was time for me to do that, and so anyway, that was that, and
So now something that we've never had the chance to talk about, and it's funny because I've always, as the situation went down and you became part of Skid Row, and you were with Skid Row for the time, and then when everything went down and you left Skid Row, we never talked, and I felt weird. I didn't want to reach out to you and say, hey, Tony, why don't you come on the show and talk about Skid Row? I just felt weird about it. It's too, you know what I mean? And now that I see, you've talked about it recently, and, the few questions I did have about the situation, it's weird too because I literally remember the moment.
I should be careful even. I should be careful even talking about this anymore because I did a very in-depth, very clear interview with an amazing journalist, Mitch LaFon, and
I love Mitch.
Even I love him too, and even being crystal clear and apologizing, and it was literally of about we must have spoken for I don't know, maybe close to an hour. I don't remember, but out of that entire interview, we talked about this for maybe 5 minutes, and honestly, it was all just what I said was I made a big fucking mistake quitting on Facebook. And what happens is they put out, Blabbermouth and these other news feeds. I don't know. I guess they got somehow a bug up their ass, and they decided to just pick on me for some reason over other people. And although I've seen them pick on other people, so I know they're not isolating me. But for whatever reason, they chose to leave two important words off, which is now continuing to circulate, even though a lot of my fans stepped up and defended the whole thing and said that's not what he said. And what they said was he regrets quitting Skid Row, which is absolutely not what I said. I said I regret quitting on Facebook. And when you add those two words, the headline is very different.
Yeah,
very
absolutely
different. So I don't really have much more to say about that whole situation other than what I already said to Mitch. I really kind of just. It's 4 years ago. It was wrapped up in the drinking, and I'm not blaming it on the drink. I'm blaming it on me. But certainly it didn't help that I was drunk when I did that, and I'm not proud of it. It was a low point for me for sure, and it had regardless of how I felt about being in that situation, that was an unprofessional thing to do, period, end of story. And you know what? If people want to pick on me for apologizing for something stupid I did, then I guess they have never made a mistake in their life, and they have, the difference between me and a lot of other people is, and I'm not even famous, is that a lot of the stuff that happens in my life is out there more than your average person, let's put it that way.
Sure.
And that's the career I chose, so I'm not, complaining about it. But at the same time, I think that it's the responsibility of, and I use the word journalist lightly with quotations around it. It's the responsibility of these guys to at least quote me accurately and warmly, as they say in the movie Almost Famous, as you said there. Yes, I will quote you accurately and warmly, But anyway, so I don't really have a lot more to say about it. I had a good time. I had some great, really fun shows with them, and that was what happened. And they're doing fine, and I'm doing fine. So next, I have a new record out. I'm happy about, and everyone else seems to be really liking it. So there you go.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I'm not liking it. I'm truly loving it, and
thank you.
I had to tell everybody about that. I've been blown away. I truly have. And you put the single out a few months ago, the initial single, Pure Evil, and we talked about it on our 300th episode. That I was really taken back. You came out with, guns a-blazing, this real heavy tune, and I'm sure most fans like myself weren't expecting that. And you made this big statement, and then the next single came out, and then the whole album came out, and it was wow. From opening to close, and something too that really, I was thinking about earlier, was a lot of albums now today are 12, 15, 18 songs. This is 10 songs, and you pointed out one was a cover, and but it's 9 songs from you and Magnus that are truly beautiful songs that cover every aspect of a commercialized hard rock metal genre. You summed it up perfectly.
Thank you. I mean, I would rather put out, and I think the trend is now actually, from what I've seen, is leaning back toward 10 song albums, which that's what we all grew up with, you know.
Right.
We'd go buy an album. I mean, there were even albums in the 70s and 60s that had, 8 songs or 9 songs,
right.
depending on how long they were. But I've seen a trend go back, coming back to the 10 song album, which I think is great because, I mean, I would rather, for a couple of reasons, I'd rather have, when we were finishing the album, it was kind of like, there was some pressure to have another song. And then at the end of the day, the label and Magnus and I, we just sort of all said, this is all really good, and it's long enough. 45 minutes is long enough. And, leave people happy and wanting more and really happy with every song rather than, having, okay, so you have 14 songs, so people think, oh, that's value for, but is it value if you skip over 3 or 4 of those songs, So
right.
I'm not saying there's not going to be songs that people skip over. I'm sure there are. But we were happy with all of them, so we just thought, let's just put it out like this. And also, I mean, everybody's streaming. The art of an album, which it is kind of it's a statement to make a record from start to finish. It's sort of a journey you want to take people on, and that's why you think about the running order and how you lay the songs out. It's kind of like you want to take people on a bit of a journey, I think. And I think one thing I'm really proud of with this album is I think we sequenced it really well, and it flows really nicely from one thing into the next. I mean, the first track, like you pointed out, is sort of a short, fast, pretty heavy track. I haven't done anything like this probably since the Tell No Tales record or something. And
right.
But then to me, it's almost like an intro. It's almost like you're watching a movie and there's this song, and then all of a sudden the first scene kicks in, which I would say is song 2, Wild Butterflies, where you kind of go, we're into the record now, and the rest of the album is more, I think, fits more with song 2 than it does song 1, and the journey kind of starts from there. But yeah, I mean, I think the value when everybody's streaming and all this, I just think, like, for us as artists, we work really hard on these records, and we want them to sound great. We want the performances to be amazing, and we try to write the best songs we possibly can. And I'm keenly aware at this point, having not put anything out for 6 years, that I needed to do an album that would appeal to my fan base. And most of my fan base is, they like to hear me singing melodic hard rock music. And so I was aware of that, but at the same time, I was trying to make, as I always do, trying to just make art with Magnus. And we did talk about the direction of the record ahead of time, and he provided me with some great music. And I just, I was in a place, I was in early recovery when I was working on this record, and I was in a place where it was not hard to write lyrics if I was willing to be honest about, what was happening. And it's not like it's not like it's not like a detailed autobiography. They're songs, so you're going to be metaphoric a lot. But within those, within the words, there's a lot of honesty on this album, and I think that is what is hitting people, and I'm really kind of happy about that, because you can't really touch people as an artist if you're not honest yourself. You can't just write surfacey, sort of meaningless things that are meaningless to you, and try to just make a song that's like, yeah, I'm just gonna rock. It's got to say something. And I'm not trying to by any means say I'm the most brilliant lyricist in the world, because I'm definitely not. But I did try to be really honest and weave honesty into the melodies I was writing. And I'm just really happy that when I do a lot of these interviews, and I've done quite a few in the past couple of weeks that I've been getting asked more about the lyrics and the title of the record and so forth than any record in recent memory for me. So anyway, I've rambled for a while. Go ahead and ask some questions. I'm sorry.
Do you think this is probably your most honest album?
Well, I think I always try to be really, really honest, but I think, and I feel like every song I write is an honest statement. But you know, on the Wildflowers album, I had a song about my mom, but it takes a lot to go through what I was going through when I wrote this album, and all of the different painful emotions that I was feeling, and I think to have the I mean, I have to pat myself a little bit on the back and say, to have the guts to actually take the risk of writing what's in your heart. I mean, look, I sat down each day that I went to write a song and record a song, because I was often writing and recording at the same time in my home studio. And I didn't edit myself. You know, I just was like, I'm going to write a song the way I always do, the way I always have. And what comes out lyrically that's what it's going to be. And that's what I did. And I saw what I was writing clearly. And I just said, okay, well, you know, it sounds good. It means something to me. And maybe it'll, you know, maybe through this honesty, through being honest, it will mean something to other people, because that to me, I mean, songs are about communication, and music is about communication. Right. So if I'm communicating honestly, then maybe I'll touch other people. If I'm just faking it, how can I reach other people? You know? True.
Did you, like, as you were writing it though, I mean, because it is you can tell it's a very deep and personal album. Like, did you think to yourself at any point, like, of censoring yourself, like maybe this is too much, or maybe I went too far?
Yeah, I did. I absolutely. I thought to myself, maybe I need to start over again, you know, and think about something. But you know, I let a few people close to me, just a few, and I was getting great feedback from Magnus, of course. But you know, Magnus being Swedish, he obviously speaks English great, but he's not going to pick up on nuances maybe quite as much as you know, as an American would. The label was thrilled when they were getting the rough stuff from me as well. And I just thought, well, you know, everybody's responding really well. But by the time I got about over halfway through, I realized I had a bit of a theme, a bit of a concept record, maybe even is kind of what I feel about this one. And it's good. I mean, it's a good thing. I'll always look back at this. To me, you know, when you make an album, when you make as many albums as I have, and you look back on them, you say that's a slice of time. That's a moment in time for me. You know, that record for me as an artist reflects that moment in my life. And I can say that about every album I've ever done. I look back and I say, wow, that was an interesting lyric I wrote, or interesting way that I sang that, or that I chose to, you know, do that based on where I was in my life. That's why when people have said to us, and they have said, why don't you re-record, like a lot of bands do, re-record one of your classic albums? And it doesn't take me, I don't think about that at all. I just absolutely know. There's no way, because I wouldn't want to, there's no way you can recapture a moment in time. Yeah. You could copy the songs. You could try to do the songs exactly the same way, but you could never capture that moment. These are snapshots in time. Everything you put into it, you can you can sing the song again, but you're not going to get that spirit. And it's not about whether you can sing the same or hit the same notes. It's not about that. It's about capturing that exact spirit. Why would you want to do that? Try to redo that, you know? It doesn't. I wouldn't. Yeah. You know.
I'm not a fan of when bands do that. I'm not a fan at all. I never liked the updated version.
Yeah. So yeah, I was keenly aware that it was that I was putting it all out there, and I didn't know in our genre of music, people tend to write off a lot of what we do. You know, I'm guilty of doing it myself. I write off other bands and other artists in my genre, and I know that my peers do the same exact thing to me. And many of them probably haven't heard all of the music I've done since the 80s, and there's been way more since the 80s than during the 80s. I only made 3 albums in the 80s with TNT, and from 92 onward until now, I've put out more records than a ton, so much. So if they haven't kept up with me, then they're not aware of where I went as an artist and where ways that I experimented even with TNT, where we went and how far out there we kind of went and tried different things. And so I think that's another thing is people don't tend not to listen to the lyrics all that much with this type of music. But I'd like to think that could change. But you know, anyway, I'm not worried about waving a flag for a genre, to be honest with you. This is the music that I am doing today in this moment. This is the record I put out. This is what Magnus and I created together, and and I really hope that people like it and appreciate it and can hear that I put my heart into it. And a lot of the reason that I'm so picky about trying to make it good, even when you don't have a big budget, and we didn't, and you, in this case, I recorded myself and had to produce myself and do all the singing and the lyric writing and the melodies and so forth. Magnus was amazing. I mean, the music that he provided me and his songwriting ability is stellar, and his playing is incredible. So writing with him and writing to what he gives me, even though we're not in the same studio, makes my life. It made this process so much easier, and it really inspired me, and it helped really drive where I was going with the lyrics, because the melodies sort of were taking me a certain way, and the lyrics came with them. Yeah.
Why did you end up deciding to do the STARBREAKER project now instead of like maybe a solo Tony? Was it you and Magnus together,
yeah.
or was it Frontiers?
Yeah.
Or
well, originally I was going to do another Westworld album with Bruno a few years ago, and we made a deal with Frontiers for that. And then somewhere along the way, it just kind of fizzled out, and Bruno and I kind of looked at it and said, without Mark Reale, it's just not going to be the same. And he was, he and I had written most of the Westworld songs together, so we just kind of decided to not do it. And that deal turned into the STARBREAKER. Into doing another STARBREAKER album. And I don't remember when we decided to do it. It was probably around the end of 2015 or the beginning of 2016. And then I went back to TNT and started working on a record with them. And then the STARBREAKER project got put to the side. And then as soon as the TNT thing ended, then Frontiers was right up there, let's go back to STARBREAKER. So for me, it was great because I needed something to get into creatively. It took me a couple of months to really get into it. Once I did, we got a lot of great songs done. I got into it pretty deeply. I recorded the ballad "Beautiful One" actually last New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve of 2017. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to do anything. I was alone, and I said, "This is the perfect night to record a sad ballad." So the song had been written for 2 or 3 years. It was a personal song that I had written. If people have heard the album, and they know that the big ballad on the record is an apology song, and very much ties into the theme of the album. And I had recorded it just myself on acoustic guitar when I wrote it a couple of years ago, and I sent it to Magnus. I said, can you possibly turn this kind of Beatlesque folky thing that I have here into a Starbreaker song? And he loved it. He wrote, and he did a great job, putting a beautiful guitar solo section in there and lifting it up as it went along, and it really kind of builds, into this totally different thing than what I had. But anyway, back to the point. So I started to sing that. I did sing it, the whole song, on New Year's Eve, and then in January of 2018, started working pretty hard on the. It took me a while to get moving on it, but I was starting to knock songs off in January of last year, and then we finally kind of got it done with everything. I don't remember. I want to say June, probably. It was completely done. So it's been done for a long time. It just took a while for them to get it out. I don't know why.
Was it hard to get moving on it because it was such a personal thing, or was it because of?
No, it was hard to get moving on it. It was hard to get moving on it because I was going through what I was going through.
Right.
And there was a lot going on for me personally. That was, it was a very difficult time. So it was hard to just get going on it and feel creative. And yet when I started to get creative, there was a lot came out. So.
Do you think making this album was kind of like your own personal therapy session?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it wasn't enough. I could have made 3 albums, but yeah, but it was hard enough getting all of these songs out. But therapeutically, it was. I mean, I'm so lucky to be a songwriter and a singer, because what can come out of you through the physical act of singing, a lot of emotion can get released. And of course, getting all those lyrics out and then being able to sing them at the top of my lungs, it's a real blessing to be able to do that. So yeah, I'm lucky that way. I think every musician probably feels that way, that, they can get stuff out in their songs. And then you get this extra little amazing, not little, huge bonus of having other people tell you how much those songs mean to them. And that's the biggest reward there is, because you do this initially for yourself, and then you get this, you're being picky and you're doing it as well as you can do it for other people, but you're doing the actual, the beginnings of it, you're doing to get your stuff out, to get your stuff out of your head. And then when other people say, man, I really related to that, there's really no reward that can beat hearing somebody tell you some great story about a song you wrote and how much it meant to them. So,
didn't I see the other day that you shared out? Did somebody do like an acoustic version of one of the songs? Like a cover?
People send me stuff from time to time, and this kid in Norway sent me this really beautiful acoustic little clip of Northern Lights, and I just loved the way he sang it. It's like he changed the song into a totally different vibe with just the way that he chose to sing it. It was very unmetal, which I loved, and it just made me feel really good, because it showed me that, wow, that song and that melody really can work as a totally different kind of song, Yeah. So yeah, I like to share. I like to share stuff like that when it comes in.
What's that like for you? I mean, because you being a person who's done acoustic versions of songs, covers, when somebody's doing something of yours, I mean, that's got to put things on a whole different level for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice if somebody really had a hit with something that I didn't have a hit with. That'd be really nice. But no, it's a huge it's an honor. I mean, it's a big compliment, when anybody does your music. It's amazing. So, I mean, there was a band that's playing here in Nashville tomorrow somebody contacted me about coming down and singing. They do like a ton of my songs, and they're not even my biggest ones. They're from my acoustic record in '94 that I did, and they do a couple of original songs of mine off that record and some of my versions of cover songs the way I did them on that record, and they asked me to come down, and so I may do that tomorrow. But that stuff like that is like so cool. It makes me feel way more famous, way more successful than I am, you know.
Well, you got to be feeling really good because I mean, the chart positions came out, and you're on 4 different charts, and you did pretty damn freaking good.
Yeah, considering that our audience they are not big streamers, which really affects the chart positions for all of the artists that are sort of under the, you know, this umbrella of whatever kind of music you want to call this that we do. You know, I don't know why, but just in a way it's good because our older audience, you know, we have obviously a demographic that stretches, you know, down to younger people, but you know, the bulk of our buying audiences and listening audience is probably within a certain age range, and they just aren't big streamers, which is in one way a great thing, because when streaming started, we were all like, don't stream. And now, you know, streaming is a big part of what drives charts, drives artists way up the charts. So like when you see some big pop artist or whoever being like number one, that's a combination now of streaming, downloads, you know, et cetera, radio play, and all of it sort of goes into to factor how high this, you know, something will be on the chart. So ours was, from what my label told me, was almost completely based on sales. And so I don't know if we'll even be on one chart next week, but it feels great to be able to say that I'm back on the Billboard charts after I don't know how many years that it's been since I have been, but 35 years after the first time that I was in '84 or '85 maybe, feels pretty good, and I'll take it. It doesn't change my life in any big dramatic way, but it feels really good, you know. It's like It's like, oh, people like it, you know, good, you know, after all this time, and I worked really hard, and so it's a little bit of validation anyway. It's a little you know, feel good moment we had there.
Have you heard from anybody like Ronnie from TNT or anybody that have heard the album, and from your peers, I should say?
That's an interesting topic, and one that's been running through my head a little bit lately. I'm first of all, you know, look, I'm so grateful that I'm even making records right now. I'm grateful that I'm even doing interviews and that people even want to do interviews. And, you know, I have a lot of gratitude for being in the position I'm in right now, just, you know, whatever level it is, just being able to make records. So from that standpoint, I'm happy. But I can't help but notice that I have a lot of musician friends, and you know, it sometimes it bugs you a little bit that, you know, you're really good musician friends, some of whom are really well known, and it does kind of bum me out that you don't hear from them, you know, about your new music, or that they didn't take 2 seconds to even listen to half a song or a couple of half a songs, or, you know, whatever it may be. And these are often people that I've played with, and maybe they have listened, and maybe they listened and they don't like it, so they don't want to say anything. But it is a weird thing, and I don't know if that's in all genres or just in ours. I've noticed that 80s, you know, musicians tend to be, or can be, and early 90s musicians can tend to be so competitive with each other that, you know, we'll see each other out and be like hugs and, man, it's great to see you. May even have great times and great conversations, but there's a cutoff point when it comes to supporting each other's music sometimes, especially if we're not involved with them. So we'll gladly work and collaborate. We'll collaborate with each other and start, projects and admire each other from afar. But whether we actually get into each other's albums and so forth, I don't see that. And I see most people who even know anything about me at all are still, their memory is back in the 80s with it all, and so they haven't even kept up with all the changes like I talked about before. So I did send Ronnie, being that he's like my brother of 35 years, I did send him a little text, and I said, hey man, I got on the Billboard charts, can you believe it? And he did right back, and he just said congratulations, but I'm sure he's listened a little, but I don't expect that I would get anything like, hey, great work, but I do that, when he put his solo record out, I actually really know other people didn't maybe respond to it. I'm not really sure, but I liked a couple songs, and I made a point of sending him a message and saying, hey, I really like this record. I really like this song or that song, and he was so happy about that. And
sure. But
it's okay. I don't reach out to him and tell him I like a song so that he'll do the same for me. I just do it because I like it. But yeah, I mean, that is a weird thing in our world, and I don't know. Again, it could just be that none of my peers like it. Well, that's fine. I don't really make music for them. I make it for my fans anyway. But it's something I've noticed, and it's sort of that way on social media to a degree. A lot of us will like each other's pages and that kind of. I mean, it's this whole thing, and then it's just it's a funny, weird thing. You can't let it bother you. You just have to make your music and do your thing and stay in your lane and stick to what you do. And I think that's the best way to go. And hopefully, by making good music, which I try to do, I can keep going and keep doing this.
Do you think it's because I'm thinking back to when I talked to, it might have been a year ago when I talked to Michael Sweet about maybe the new Striper album, and I had brought up to him about Ghost, and because I wanted to get his opinion if he knew about what his thoughts on Ghost were and everything, and he kind of where he said he heard him a little bit but not really, because he's just so wrapped up in his own musical thing, he doesn't really give new music or new artists really a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit different because Ghost is not one of his peers,
Right.
I am, listening to Michael and I listening to each other's stuff is more what I'm talking about versus, him listening to Ghost. So I'm like him though. I like to keep up in passing. So I may not buy the latest, big record, I don't buy pop records anyway, but now that I have, we all have Spotify or Apple Music or whatever our choice of streaming stuff is. And, I'll listen through things that are big and kind of try to figure out why people like it. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. And oftentimes by listening to something that's way outside my wheelhouse, I'll pick up something that I can use. But it keeps me at least up on certain things that I just like. I want to hear what's going on to some degree. I don't study it. Some people study it way more than me. I have friends like Bruno Ravel from Danger Danger. He knows every pop star he knows every new hot producer, and he keeps up on it a lot. I mean, he's up on everything. I'm not like that. I just kind of listen in passing. I'll put the radio on in the car, or somebody else will, and I'll pick up what I pick up. And if I hear about a new rock band that's supposed to be really good, I will go watch some videos or check them out and try to absorb what they're about.
Cool. Now, how about live shows? I mean, I know you've done over the years, especially a lot of acoustic stuff. Will we get electric shows of you?
I'm actually working on that now. I'm speaking to a guy in Europe about doing my first electric solo tour in May or June or somewhere around there, and that would be fun. And that's something that I still would love to do a proper full. I've dabbled in solo stuff with the acoustic stuff, and Mercury Train and Morningwood and Wildflowers and all that, but and even some of the Westworld albums I would sort of almost consider to be, I had guys collaborating with me, but the only difference between a solo record and a band is a band name is that you decide to call it a band, But
right,
Chris Cornell's first solo record was, he grabbed this band in Seattle that he loved called 11, and their sound is all over the record. So that's it. He just chose to make that his solo record. But I really have the desire to make a full solo album with my name on it. Really just to express myself and decide everything and kind of shape the flavor of the album and where it goes and what it does musically and all that. So that's something I really want to do sooner than later. But I like doing these. I like making music. I like being in the studio. I like writing songs. So I feel like I was away from it for about 6 years, writing as much as I'm used to and recording as much as I'm used to. I was touring, but now I feel like I really want to put a lot of music out for the indefinite future, and just keep making music and tour as well. So I want to tour way more than I have, and I want to try to definitely do more of that too. But if a good project comes my way, I might want to be a part of it, and hopefully though I'll be able to get to the solo record soon.
That'd be cool. That'd be totally cool. Yeah, and then you also got the next month the live TNT album coming out in DVD.
Yeah, the DVD. Yeah. That'll be out in March, and that's a weird one, but that'll be out in March, and and then I have another record that I finished right after that I started right after the Starbreaker album was done, with some other musicians in Europe, and I haven't heard the final result of that. I did all my songs. I rewrote a bunch of things that were sent to me and co-wrote stuff, and did all my vocals, and they tell me I've been getting messages as they're working on more of the music and finishing the album. I've been getting incredible messages the last few weeks telling me how great this record is. And I believe that what we're going to call the project is Love Killers. I think that's going to be the name of it, of the band or project or whatever you want to call it. And they tell me it's pretty good. So I can't wait to start hearing some of what they're doing with what I did. And that, I guess, is going to be coming out. I think they want to fly me over to Europe and get a video or two done and some photos and so forth. And I think that's going to be out. I hope by fall or maybe sooner, or I don't know. But so there's that. Yeah, so that's a project that I think is going to be pretty cool. And then I just got a call today about potentially another really interesting one. And so somewhere in here I've got to fit in more touring and a solo record. So but I look, like I said before, I'm so grateful to have these opportunities and to start to be busy again. It's just such a blessing, and I'm so lucky that I get to do this. This isn't something that this is like, it's not something I have to do. It's something I get to do, Right. And now that I made it through, potentially what could have been, God, I don't know. I could have died. Some of the situations I got myself into before I stopped this madness. So as far as I'm concerned, I get to wake up every day, and I get to, have my coffee and I get to write songs. I get to do interviews with fine people like you. So, you know, it's all, to me, everything is, it's all just, you know, just great,
beautiful
good
thing.
stuff right now. Yeah.
It is. I think musically too, like the climate of music, like on the business hand, financially it's probably not the best, but I think as a music fan, I think it's just an amazing time right now because there's so much great music coming out from artists like yourself, and it's just I'm loving it. I mean, personally, I'm just loving music right now more and more.
Yeah, maybe I almost feel like maybe it's some kind of a renaissance. You know, I don't know. I think it's interesting. I don't think people should write off. Obviously, I say this because I'm one of them, but I mean, I think people write off older artists. And from my experience, man, some of my favorite artists have put out some of their best records when they're in their 40s and 50s and even 60s and beyond. You know, so all it is it's more experience, and if you can still do it, and I'm lucky that I can still sing. I'm getting over a cold, which is why I kind of sound gravelly right now. But you know, I'm lucky I can still sing, and I can still you know, do what I do well enough that people recognize my voice, and they, you know, I hope so. I hope people are happy with how I'm singing these days, and so it feels good to be able to, you know, to do that and still make records that are hopefully will make people not just go, you know, it's not good anymore. So I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case, you know.
Nah, amazing album. I can't say enough good things about it.
Thank you.
So, all right. So, Tony, first of all, let me thank you for doing this. Thank you for putting out an amazing album. Thanks for being part of our world and our family and friends. And where should we? Where's the best place for everybody to go to get this album?
From what I'm told, anywhere records are sold, any place they normally buy their albums, they should be able to grab a CD if they want a physical copy. They can always go to Frontiers Music, you know, to any of their like on their Instagram page. If you just click on the link on their bio, I think it takes you to their store. So they can obviously order directly from the label, but I believe it's going to be on Amazon. I know it's on Amazon. It's the CD and obviously the download. It's on iTunes. It's on Apple Music. It's on Spotify. So any place where you like to listen to music, Pandora, I think it's as well. It should be there. And I'm trying to push them to actually go ahead and do vinyl. I know they were going to, and for some reason they didn't. And I think I'm just gonna keep harping on them until I'd like to see all 3 Starbreaker records put on vinyl and maybe do a box set or something, you know. But we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, people should be able to get that anywhere. And if they have any trouble getting it, they should just reach out to Frontiers Music and on any social media platform, or go to their website, and they should be able to find it.
You know, I think the amazing feedback and you know, the love everybody's given for this album, I think that should like motivate them to want to do vinyl for it.
You know, Magnus and I were talking about that the other day. You would hope so, and I hope so, and you know, but you never know what it seems to be doing better than in terms of the attention and the sales of maybe some of the other things that they have going on, but you never know. I wish I could reach into their mind and hypnotize them and say vinyl, you know. You just don't know what the motivations are to do something or not to do something. But I'll keep working on it. That's for sure. I don't give up easily.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, Tony, again, thanks so much for doing this. Congrats on the album, the charting.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Hey, Bay, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and so congratulations on how well your show is doing, and continued success. And if there's anything I can do for the show, you know, I'm always there for you, buddy. Absolutely.
I can never thank you enough for everything you've done for us and the show and me. And, you know, it's like, it's funny. I was thinking to myself, like, wow, like I can actually say I'm truly friends with Tony Harnell, and I can pinch myself and say it's real.
Well, thank you. Well, it's a pleasure. You're a great guy, and of course, I know you and your wife, and you guys are awesome. So, and say hello, please, for me.
It's funny. She sent me. She actually had surgery yesterday. She's up in bed. She sent me a message like 15 minutes ago. She's like, "Please make sure you tell Tony I said hi."
Okay. Well, give her a big hug and kiss when you see her.
I will. Thanks, Tony. Take care, man. And
okay, brother. Thanks.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, man. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye. All right, there he goes, Mr. Tony Harnell. Get that freaking album, please. It's truly a beautiful album. Starbreaker, Dysphoria.